Hi, Anna here at the Sewing Studio, and in this video I am going to talk you through the Bernette B35 sewing machine. It's a lovely little machine that's very easy to use, great for beginners or those looking for a second machine. It's quite lightweight as well, so easy to transport around. I'm going to talk you through its features, show you everything that comes in the box, show you how to thread it, do some sewing, show you its capabilities, and then talk a bit about warranty and support. Now we've split all of those out into different chapters, so if there's one section that you're more interested in, feel free to head straight there. So the Bernette B35 is a standard size sewing machine, so you've got 6 inches of space to the right of the needle. You've got 3 easy to use turn dials here. This one is your stitch selection. So all your standard utility stitches are detailed here. And then underneath, these are all stretch stitches for you to sew with stretch fabric. There's also a 1-step buttonhole there. You can change the length of the stitch up to a maximum of 4 millimeters, and you can adjust the width of the stitch up to a maximum of 5 millimeters. You've got your reverse lever here to secure your stitches. The presser foot has an extra high lift, so you can get bulky items in under there. And the feed dogs drop to do any kind of free motion work. You've got a built-in needle threader to help you thread the eye of the needle. And the bobbin is a front-loading bobbin, so there's a nice stitch quality on this machine. Now, as I've popped that off, if I close that back up, you've then got your free arm here for sewing any cuffs or hems. And if I pop this back on, you've then got storage in the front here for all the feet and accessories that come with the machine. Now, those comprise of the standard zigzag foot that will already be on the machine. And then you have one for zips, one for rolled hems, a clear view, an adjustable blind stitch, and one for sewing on buttons. You've also got your automatic 1-step buttonhole foot, and then a few spare bobbins, some needles, a stitch unpick, some oil and screwdrivers to help keep the machine maintained. And then you have your combined power lead and foot control, as well as your instruction manual. So next, I'm going to show you how to thread the machine, and we'll do some sewing. So threading the machine is very easy. You've got 2 spool pin options here, and they just pull up like that. The reason there's 2 is for if you were doing any twin needle work. So it doesn't really matter which one you use to thread the needle. So keep one up and pop your spool on top. Now I don't need to wind a bobbin today because I've got one already done, but all you do for that is pop the thread in underneath those discs and then onto your bobbin, which sits on that pin there. You just push that over and then put your foot flat to the floor with the foot pedal until it's full up, or there's as much on there as you need. Push that back to the left and then take your bobbin off, and that's all done and dusted. So for threading the needle, you're going to follow the solid lines. So you want to go in under that one, down through the tension discs which are in here and around. Now you want to be threading through the take-up lever, but I can see the position that the needle's last stopped in. The take-up lever is halfway down, so we need to get that to the top. And you do that by turning the hand wheel towards you until it's in its highest position. Always turn the hand wheel towards you, never go backwards, else it will cause a jam up, always forwards. So then you want to pop the thread in the take-up lever until it slots in the little hole in the front. Down in behind the guide that sits just there under this white plastic, and then lastly in the guide just above the needle. And if you were threading a twin needle, you'd pop that spool pin up, put your second spool of thread on there, go around exactly the same channel, but pop the thread into this guide here for the right needle, and this one's for the left, and obviously don't use the needle threader for that. But ordinarily for your needle threader, which is this device here, and this is calibrated for the little hook that's in there to shoot through the eye of the needle every single time. So it's down to us to make sure that needle is in the right spot. If it's down here, for instance, you're going to come down with this, it's going to hit the back of the shank of the needle and bend the little hook out of position. Now the good thing is, when you've done the turny, as I call it, to get this in the top position to thread it, the needle is then in the right position for the needle threader. So you just want to come down with it, lay the thread in underneath, whoops, and in underneath there. And the thread is now laying, I can't see it, but there is a tiny hook there. The thread's just laying underneath that hook. And I'm just supporting the thread here. I'm not holding it too tight. And you just want to draw it back, and I let go. And then there's the loop in behind that you can pull the thread through. So that's the needle done. For the bobbin, you want to take off the accessory tray and flip the door down. And then there's a little lever here that you want to flip up and pull the bobbin case out. There'll be an empty one in there when the machine arrives. Now there's a specific way that you need to thread the bobbin, and that is always with the tail to the right. I try and remember it as a cue for quality. And you just want to pop that in the bobbin case, and then there's a little slit at the top there, and you just want to go through that and then under this tension spring here, is that's what sets the tension on the bobbin, and then it just sits out the top there. To pop it back in the machine, you just want to line this top bit up with, there's like a little nook carved out there. So you just want to sit that in and then line that piece up and push until you hear the click, and that's in the right position then. To draw the thread up, hold onto your needle thread, turn, oops, put that needle threader back up in the right position a minute, there we go. Turn the hand wheel towards you, one revolution, and then give a tug on the needle thread and pull the bobbin thread through. Whoops. Now, whilst I have this open down here, I just want to show you this piece, which is how you could drop the feed dogs to do your free motion work. And you just push it down and slide it to the right. And you can see, you heard those clicked and they've lowered down. So you're free now to move the fabric in any which way that you like. To pop them back up, you just reverse what you did. So you push it down, move it to the left and back up again. Now you'll notice they didn't come up straight away, and they won't until you start sewing. So if I hold on to these a minute and pretend that we're sewing, you can hear they click then to engage, and now they're coming up. So I'm going to shut that, pop the accessory tray back on, and we're ready to start sewing. So all the different stitches have corresponding letters to them. So your standard straight stitch is letter A, you've got a zigzag as letter B, your anti-fraying zigzag is C, different blind hem stitches and some satin stitches in there. And then these are stretch versions of those stitches, which I will come to in a minute. So first off, we're going to sew out a standard straight stitch on some cotton. So you want to be on letter A on this dial, which it already is. Now there's little grooves cut out in the top of the case here, which are indicators for where you want to be to select that stitch. The stitch length is on 2. I'm going to put it up to 2.5. These are millimeters, by the way, as that's about a standard straight stitch. And then your stitch width on a straight stitch does nothing other than move your needle position. So on here you can see number 5, it's also got a representation of the needle hole with a little dot in the middle. So that's telling you that the needle's in the center position. If you go around to 0, that's the needle in the left position, and you can see it's now moved across. And you want to be able to move that for if you're sewing zips or piping or doing something like that. But for now, we'll just go in the center position. So I'm going to grab my cotton, pop it under the foot, hold on to your threads and just move the hand wheel towards you to drop your needle in. Pop your foot on the presser foot and make a start. To reverse, just keep your finger on the reverse lever. Go back over your stitches, let go and come forward again. And there I went from the slow speed up to the highest speed, which is about 820 stitches per minute. And you just want to lift the presser foot cut your threads off on the handy cutter on the side, and that's your nice neat straight stitch. That's on the top and that's underneath. Now obviously by altering the stitch length, you're getting a longer straight stitch on there. So for instance, if we go up to the maximum, which is 4mm, and go again, you can see you've then got a much longer stitch length. And that's great for if you're doing any top stitching or sewing through something a bit thicker. To move on to a zigzag stitch, we need letter B. So I'm just going to move this dial round to letter B. Let's go for a 3mm length, and at the moment it's on 5, so it's going to do the maximum widest zigzag stitch that it can. Just get these threads out of the way before I get tangled. And by holding on to, just popping your finger on those threads at the back there, when you turn the hand wheel down, the thread draws up, so you just want to keep your finger on them so the needle doesn't become unthreaded. It doesn't matter because you can re-thread it, it's just a bit irritating. So I'm just going to make a start, reverse, and then off I go again. So that's on the widest width and about 3mm. If I was to take that down to just over 1, maybe a little bit less. You're then doing a nice close stitch for applique and things like that, which I'll show you up close in a minute. You could go the other side of the spectrum and do a wider stitch, so back up to number 3, but then a narrower width. Just secure those. So there you can see the kind of different stitch options that you can get by altering the length and the width. So that's your standard zigzag. That's getting it closer together, so decreasing the stitch length, and then increasing the stitch length and narrowing the width. And because you have the separate stitch width dial, not every machine comes with that, but you can change that on all the stitches that are on here. So if you wanted a narrow sort of anti-fraying, which is the C there, zigzag, you can absolutely achieve that. So let's take a look at the one-step buttonhole. So let's grab the buttonhole foot, which is in here. And then what you want to do is get your button and push this up as far as it will go. Pop your button in and then clamp it down. And what that then does is it sets a size here for the buttonhole, plus a couple of millimeters so that the button can easily go through the buttonhole once it's sewn. And then you want to attach this foot onto the machine. So these snap on and off, so you just want to push that to release that foot off. And then you're lining up this bar with the groove that's out of the foot there. So I'm just going to pop that in. I'm going to use the extra high lift to get it underneath. And you just want to drop that down and on. And then the last thing you need to do in this area is bring down the buttonhole sensor, which is just behind the needle threader there. And that sits just that side of that plastic. And what's going to happen is when it's sewing the buttonhole, it's going to hit that guide at the back and know when to stop, do the bar tacks, and then come forward again. So to choose the buttonhole stitch, it's his own separate symbol up here. So you want to go right the way around, wrong way, go from A, there you go, to the buttonhole there, on this one there. And then on your length, you've also got the same symbol here. So you want to bring that to the top, and you've got a little bit of tolerance in the stitch length between 0 and 1. I tend to keep around the middle, somewhere around there. And then the stitch width, you always want it to be on number 5. Has no bearing on the buttonhole, but it needs to start with the needle in the centre position, which is why it's always on 5. And then I like to get the thread underneath the foot because it's just a bit neater. The easiest way to do that is to drop your needle in, bring it back up again, and then pull the thread out. Now the downside of doing that is now the machine thinks it's already started part of the buttonhole. So all you need to do is go around to reset buttonhole and back to the symbol again, and it will start afresh. You might want to put a little mark on your fabric and then you can line it up in that window there, and it's going to sew the buttonhole in that direction. So you can just drop your presser foot down. I like to drop the needle in and then put your foot on the presser foot. I like to go about medium speed, it always sews out a bit nicer. And then you're just watching for the bar tacks at the end for when you need to take your foot off the foot pedal to stop the machine. So off we go. And then what I like to do is go around, I'm just going to lift the needle out a minute, go around to your standard straight stitch with no length on there at all, and just do a few stitches on the spot to secure it, like that. And there's your nice, easy one-step buttonhole. Buttonhole? Buttonhole. That's the one on the top. And then that's how it looks underneath. So let's move on now to a couple of different types of fabric. So we're going to reverse what we did. So pop the buttonhole sensor back up, take the buttonhole foot off, and I'm going to pop the standard one back on. And I'm also going to swap out the needle? Gosh, what is wrong with me today? The needle for a jersey needle, just make sure that's the right one. And these have a universal fitment, so they've got the flat piece which always goes to the back. You can pop that in and just make sure it's fully up as far as it will go, and then tighten the screw in there. Now for the needle threader, remember what I was saying about having the needle in the right position? Again, because of the way it stopped, I can't see the take-up lever here. So I just want to turn it round till it's up to the highest point, and then the needle's in the right position. So you can just come down, whoops, lay the thread in, draw it through, and there's your loop to come through, and pop that under the foot. So I've got some jersey material here that's quite a stretchy ribbed jersey, and what we're going to do is do a straight stitch, but it's the triple straight stitch for stretch fabric. So we want letter A, so it's still on letter A, so I don't need to change anything there. But what you need to do is move your stitch length around to the same colour red and the S for stretch stitch. And you have a little bit of tolerance again between the plus and the minus on the length of this stitch. The width has no bearing because it's a straight stitch, other than I like to sew in the centre position so it can stay on number 5. So I'm going to pop the fabric in underneath, drop the needle in and make a start. Bring the needle up. And there you can see it's done a really nice job of that. The fabric's sitting flat, there's no waviness there. You can stretch the fabric with the stitch and the seam as well. Let's just open that out and look, it's nice and stretchy. And that's how neat it is underneath as well. And that's the top. So moving on to the thicker side of fabrics now, let's swap the needle out for a jeans needle because I've got some denim that I'm going to sew with. So I'm going to pop that in, making sure it's fully up, needle in the right position, down, in, around, up, pull through. You get the idea. So let's pop those under. So this is a 10-ounce denim that we sell in the shop. I'm just going to pop that under there. So I'm going to go back to the standard straight stitch, and this time, because it's a bit thicker than the cotton that we were using, I'm going to increase the stitch length to 3mm. Again, I'm going to sew in the centre position so the width can stay on number 5. Oh, drop that in. And that's sewn through that really well. It's nice and neat, nothing skipped. That's the underside. And the seam is nice and secure too. So let's double that over and go through 4 layers now and see how it copes with that. Not going to change anything on the machine, just do exactly the same thing. And there you go. It's done a really nice job of that too. Again, nothing skipped. That's the underside. The seam is still really nice and secure. This machine comes with 2 years warranty, and in the box you'll find this card which details that for you, and you can also fill that in and send it off to register your machine or do it online. The choice is yours. And don't forget, we're here at the Sewing Studio to help you with any advice or support that you might need with your new machine. Now I hope at the end of this video now you understand the capabilities of the Bernette B35 and what it can do to help you decide whether it's the right machine for you. If so, head on over to our website and grab yours now. Delivery is fast and it's free. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.